So we'll get right to it. We will introduce now our first presenter, who is travel expert Ann McAlpin. And Ann is nationally recognized expert, author, and this is my favorite, she's a packing guru and love those organizational skills. So she's been inspiring travelers for over 25 years. She's been a guest on the Oprah Show, on The View, CNN, just to name a few. And this is where I'm very jealous. Ann has traveled to over 80 countries on 6 continents and experienced all types of travel herself. I love the motto that you have coined and live by, which is, if you want to get away from it all, don't take it all with you. I absolutely love that. So Ann, thank you so much for being with us today. Many of our members are just starting to ease back into travel. And they're doing that by looking forward to discovering or rediscovering destinations just within their local regions on road trips this summer. So what travel and packing trips do you have specifically to ensure successful and safe too, road trips?
Always. Well, thank you, Diana, and hello, everyone. Really, the most important thing to do before any trip is do all your research. And especially now, it's so important. 2 excellent resources, AAA.com, and that has updated state and local travel restrictions, and CDC.gov, which of course has updated continual updates on traveling safety. So that's important. But let's talk about some car trips, because I know a lot of people are thinking maybe now's the time to do a little short road trip. So I think in a car trip, a good thing to have prepared is your PPE, your personal protection equipment, and basically that's your mask and your items that you need in your car when you're traveling. So be prepared. I like to put together a little organized kit. Here I've just used a little shoebox. You can call it your car kit. But in addition to my mask, I have wipes to wipe down all those high touch points in your car. And then keep in mind you want to throw away your wipes. So I've got, it's just a cereal box there that has a secure lid. So I have a trash bin. I've preloaded it with some plastic bags so I can empty the trash when I'm at my destination or along the way. And also another good idea, paper towels to have handy in your car, and always a kitchen towel just in case I need to clean up some spills. And I also like to pack some small tissue packets in case you need some emergency TP along the way. It's not a bad idea to have that with you. And also I like a quick access PPE, which is basically this packing cube. And in this, I can keep that packed in the side of my door or in the center console. And in that, I have an extra mask if I need that for quick to get out at a pump your own gas, for example. I've got my mask ready. I've also have packed gloves. If I need to pump my gas, I'm good to go there. And also, again, more wipes so I can wipe down touch points when I get back into the car, the steering wheel, the dashboard, just those high touch points that you want to make sure are nice and clean. And then what's a road trip without food, right? So we love taking some snacks along the way. Check in advance to find out what is open along your routes. Of course, do your research, but pack those snacks that are friendly for travel. Things like granola bars and nuts, things that won't melt in a hot car. And another good idea is take your own utensils, because that way you know they're nice and clean. You might have some in your picnic basket already. That way you can keep them clean and be ready for a snack along the way. As well, don't forget to hydrate. Hot summers. So I like to pack a BPA-free water bottle, and consider taking a water bottle that has a filter in it. So that way it'll extend your travel even easier as well.
Wonderful. Great suggestions.
And then some tips for airports as well, because I know some people are thinking of perhaps flying. So some tips if you are doing some travel is, of course, check at the airport TSA Transportation Security Administration, TSA.gov. You want to make sure for your airplane travel that you have all those updated security tips before you go to the airport, and also check with your airline's website, because things change and it's nice to be up to date when you arrive. Of course, arrive at the airport with plenty of time and pack your patience. Arrive with your mask on and pre-print your boarding pass. So that way when you arrive, it's less touch points when you're at the airport as well. As far as security goes, go to tsa.gov. As I mentioned, they do have a few new tips or a few new security regulations. We can still carry the 311 bag, which is the quart-sized bag of liquids, and every liquid in the bag needs to be 3.4 ounces or less. So that's the same regulation. However, in addition to that, we're now allowed to take up to a 12-ounce bottle of hand sanitizer. So that's something new for people to know and understand before you go to the airport. You do have to pull out both those items at airport security, so keep that in mind. So that's just one extra 12-ounce bottle of liquid hand sanitizer you're permitted on the airplane. Now, remember, take food, because food always keeps us happy when we're traveling. And again, at the airport, maybe all the restaurants aren't available now. So take your food. Food has to be packed in a clear package now, in a clear plastic container. So be sure you have your food pre-packed before you go to the airport. I like to travel with nuts and things like that are travel friendly, and that has to be pulled out at airport security as well. And pack all those small items that you keep in your pockets, coins, cell phones, things like that. Pack those in your carry-on bag to go through airport security. And just to remind yourself, maybe throw in an extra plastic bag to keep all those things organized in case you have a big carry-on. You don't want to lose them in the bottom of your carry-on. Once on board the plane, I continue to travel with, I call it my comfort kit, but in addition to my comfort kit of my neck pillow and lumbar pillow, I've put in there, of course, an extra mask. It's nice to have that because it'll be fresh. So I'll have a second mask when I'm on the plane. That'll just kind of freshen up, and it also is packed in a packing cube that has mesh, so that that mesh is breathable. You don't want to put the mask into something that isn't breathable that way. And of course, extra wipes. So when I'm sitting on the plane, I can wipe down the tray table. I can wipe down all those high touch points. In addition to that, seat belts. Think about everything you touch. And if you are going to touch that monitor on the back of the seat, of course, wipe that down, and you'll be a much happier traveler when you're all organized.
Wonderful. So many amazing tips. Thank you.
Yes. And then one other tip I wanted to mention about hotels, if we have time. So for hotels, some people are thinking of traveling to stay in a hotel, and just some things to think about. Contact your hotel in advance to make sure and ask what their cleaning procedures are. And you want to make sure you're comfortable with how they're cleaning the hotel. Again, I pack hand sanitizer, wipes when I come in the room. You can wipe down, of course, the light switches. You can wipe down the tabletops as well. And remember that TV remote. I like to just keep a plastic bag handy, and I can pop it inside that so I don't have to worry about wiping that down as well. If you happen to have a shower cap in your hotel room, you can put that around the TV remote as well. Also, if you haven't wiped off the handles of your luggage, if you happen to check it, be sure you've wiped down your touch points on your luggage, your handles, everything that you're touching there with some wipes when you get it from the baggage terminal, or when you get back to your hotel room, you're good to go there as well. And in the hotel, check in advance to find out if they have any restaurants available, and if you have some food options. Room service is also an option. Check in advance, and make sure that you have your own things that I like to travel with, which include a coffee cup. Coffee mug that I know I bring with me, I've always traveled with. It's clean. It's a nice way to have some tea or coffee and relax in your hotel room. And I take a collapsible drinking cup. That way I'm ready. I know it's clean and fresh. I'm set when I'm in my room. And again, some utensils to have some food if I'd like when I'm back in the hotel room, and I'm good to go there.
Wonderful. And and I'm curious if you could just share really quickly, what are your personal travel plans for this summer?
Oh, for now, I'm looking at something later this summer because I love to travel. So I'm looking forward to it. And I always like to remind people that travel is a personal choice. Be sure to do your research and call a travel agent if you need some help, right? They're always there for you.
Absolutely. And, going back to road trips, I've personally driven cross country 3 times. And I have to say, driving cross country as a college student and, a young lady in my early 20s was very, very different than driving cross country with a child as a mother. So, very different experiences. And I know, keeping children or teens content and occupied can certainly be a challenge, but the planning that goes into practicing safety measures in addition to, planning snacks and activities requires a whole nother level of organization. So You've given us some great reminders. Never enough wipes, never enough plastic bags. But it's funny, you know, I've heard other travel experts talk about how just the anticipation of a trip and all the planning that goes into a vacation is actually enough to trigger that release of dopamine, so we're feeling happier. So I'll just share really quickly my trip, little trick as a mom. For everyone out there that loves planning theme parties, when I became a mom and I tried to think of a road trip as a theme party on wheels. So if you can kind of frame the task of packing your bags and packing your vehicle with a daily theme party in mind, it might just make it a little bit less work or feel like a little less work. So, you know, the theme can be a favorite television show or favorite movie. It could be everyone wears a certain color on a certain day. A decade, like, you know, everyone dresses up in 1970s inspired clothing and listens to disco music in the car. So just a thought, if you hate planning theme parties, then I'm sorry, but, you know, maybe just watch Chevy Chase and the iconic vacation movie The Day Before You Hit the Road, and you know, with all these tips that you're hearing today, you will fare better than the Griswolds, you know.
I love your idea. I think that is fantastic. So
gotta make
love
it
that tip.
Yeah. So I'm going to go to our next guest, who comes from our AAA national office, Paula Twydale, and she is the Senior Vice President of Travel for AAA. Paula has over 30 years of experience in the travel industry, and she has served on a number of nationwide tourism initiatives. Paula, bravo, you were the first female chairwoman of the United States Tour Operators Association, USTOA, so bravo. Paula, we got to see you recently on national television when you shared some of your incredible travel tips on Live with Kelly and Ryan, so we are in the midst of celebrity here, but we're so grateful to have you here with us today. You know, tell us, as travelers are beginning to venture out, what are we seeing as an association, as an organization nationwide for travel for, you know, this summer and fall? And what are your suggestions for keeping our members safe, families safe?
Well, first of all, thank you, Deanna. Appreciate that. I'm glad to be here. We're seeing a lot of things, and AAA has just posted a lot of information. In fact, it went out to the trade presses today, but I'd like to take that, if I could, in a couple of different pieces of, you know, just travel interest in general, and like what's really driving the business, and, you know, what could we do to plan and stay safe, because that's really paramount. We just heard from Ann, she had great travel tips, which was packing is essential, and kind of what measures the industry is taking as a whole. So first and foremost, what we're seeing, you know, the idea of you talked about is a summer vacation is very exciting. People really enjoy going out on a summer vacation, and it's an opportunity now for really that kind of emotional release from a very stressful time. So when we look at where people want to go, it's exciting because summer just sparks that energy in all of us. And travelers are right now taking sort of that little bit of a wait and see approach. They're taking a very cautious, optimistic, but cautious approach. So we're seeing quite a bit on road tripping now, as we just talked about. And when it comes to planning, the planning is a lot closer in. We're seeing folks plan, you know, from anywhere from 48 hours to 7 days, which that window is a very short window. So we're seeing a lot of sporadic planning happening right now for the summer, and a significant amount of bookings are made in that period of time. We're also seeing online searches happen quite readily, and it's increasing, which is really nice to hear about and see. And they want to be comfortable. People really want to be comfortable and confident in where they're going and where they're traveling, especially when it comes to their final destination. So many of them to this point are going by car. So when you talk about that cross-country road trip, quite a few people are taking those car trips. And when AAA does a measurement about those trips, they're looking at trips that are 50 miles or longer out of your domicile when we do those measurements. So keep that in mind. A lot of the trips are also long weekend excursions and multiple journeys. So if I can kind of paint the picture a little bit for you as to what we're seeing, if I take it the pre-COVID situation, so that'd be like in February when we did our statistics, we had quite a few people. We had 173 million travelers expected to travel in the summer. That's a huge number. That represented over 850 million trips. Since then, with COVID, of course, a lot of the travel has come down a bit, but this summer now, the stats that we just released today is over 700 million trips are expected this summer, which is really a good amount. It is 15% down, but it's still a very, very solid amount of people that are traveling. And by the way, in the pre-COVID environment, 90% of those people that were going to travel were going to take domestic destinations. So it's no surprise that most of the travel was going to happen in the domestic area as opposed to long haul. So that's a little bit of kind of an insight as to where, what they're doing and the statistics around that. And when we talk about road tripping, a lot of the things that make road tripping very attractive right now is also the fact that gasoline is a lot cheaper than what it was a year ago. So it makes it very, very conducive for people to travel by car. And it's around $2.16 to $2.25 a gallon, and that's about 60 cents cheaper than it was last year at this time. And it's inching up slowly, but we expect it to go up maybe 10 or 15 cents more per gallon before the end of the year. So that's what we're looking at. In terms of destinations, Diana, for what we look at, we measure those destinations by triptychs. First of all, one of the things that we have at AAA, the triptych, T-I-K, at AAA.com, it measures where people typically want to go. And typically the large crowd destinations like popular destinations like Orlando used to always be #1 on that list. And now what we're seeing is those numbers being, Orlando kind of slipped to #8 and Denver popped from #10 slot to #1. And why that is because people want to really go and enjoy the great outdoors. They want that freedom and flexibility, and you're seeing a great propensity of people being outdoors. Some of those statistics also look at Denver, Las Vegas, Los Angeles, and Phoenix and Seattle as being popular destinations for orientation. Right. So a little bit more, Deanna, too, I mean, if you're going to look at hotels, people that are looking at where they want to go and where they want to stay, another tidbit of how this plays out for you as a consumer, now that phases of areas are opening up, what we're seeing is a change in the hotel side. So whereas big cities like New York City and Orlando were slipping away a bit during COVID, we're starting to see a lot more people choosing hotels in those locations. So those are going back up on the list. So Las Vegas again, Orlando, San Diego, New York, and Chicago are top of the list. And those are some of the statistics we just released. The other thing that I think maybe beyond the minds of the people that are on this webinar today would be cruising. What's happening in the cruise world, right? We hear a lot about cruising, and frankly, the cruise lines actually decided voluntarily to suspend their cruising until September 15th, but they did it on a voluntary basis because they're working with the CDC and they're working with CLIA, which is the Cruise Line International Association, to really get it right, to follow the protocols and make sure that they can create a safe environment. So they opted to suspend cruising until September 15th. So the exciting thing is we're going to see cruising in the fall. And really, I want to give people confidence because our numbers are showing cruises are up for next year. People are booking for 2021. So cruising is not on, it's just on the back burner a little temporarily right now, but feel confident that you can book a cruise very, very soon for certainly the fall or thereabouts into 2021. The last piece of destinations would be questionable in terms of international. People say, well, what about international? So much is happening in the domestic world. In international, right now, vacationers will continue to gravitate towards the road trips in the United States. But when borders like Canada and Mexico start opening for vehicles, people are going to start to go to Canada and Mexico. In addition to that, we'll start to see the Dominican Republic and the Caribbean islands coming on board and the gradual uptick in international destinations. Of course, we're waiting for reciprocity where the U.S. government opens its borders to international locations and vice versa, the international opening to U.S. borders. But I'd like to make sure the people that online are aware that if you are contemplating an international vacation, there are some things that you really want to contemplate, and that is looking at registering for STEP, which is with the State Department. That's the Safe Traveler Enrollment Program. You should always go into an international location, register for STEP so the State Department knows where you're going. They can help you if you're stranded or if something happens. They're really advocates for the consumer who's traveling. In addition to that, check the CDC, check the WHO for destinations, for any restrictions there. Also check restrictions from coming from those destinations back into the United States. There may be some restrictions there too, so you want to make sure you've vetted that. And of course, buy insurance, protect your trip. It's an investment. Why wouldn't you protect it? Our travel advisors can help walk you through that and pick the great product that's right for you. And also, if you're going to drive in an international destination, we would make sure you also purchase an IDP, which is an international driving permit. And that IDP, AAA is one of the only entities that are sanctioned to actually sell you that IDP and get you ready for that international vacation. And what it all wraps up into being is really, in the nature of what this is being smart when you depart, right? So I think, put it in perspective, planning and using a travel advisor, a AAA travel advisor is your best friend. They're knowledgeable, they have the expertise, it's hassle-free. When I invest financially, I go with a financial planner because they have the core competency in the finance. I don't. So I'm gonna trust the people who know what they're doing. So why wouldn't you trust a travel advisor to help you through that? And AAA has wonderful, experienced people to do that for you. You want to check the CDC, traveling and planning. Plan ahead, of course, is more important than ever. Check the CDC for the COVID tracker. And then also on TripTix, we have at AAA our own COVID tracker map that can help you understand where you're going, planning your trip, and looking at what borders may be closed. So planning is the number one thing you must do, because there are a lot of things right now that may be preventing you from getting to a destination because it's not open. Make sure you contact your hotel to see what kind of things that they're using to keep you safe. So all of those things are features that we're all looking at. And then the measures the industry is taking as a whole. I'd like to always look at this holistically, and this is probably the better tips in terms that really coincides with Ann talked about packing, but it's really what masks are being worn. They're mandatory on most airlines, so you can expect that. In hotels, in attractions, in the large crowds, sanitation measures that the events and destinations are using, like UV lights, electrostatic sprayers. They're sealing rooms. They're putting seals on the rooms to know that no one entered the room. They're eliminating or minimizing housekeeping, as you probably heard in another presentation. And cars like Hertz are sanitizing and putting seals. Frequency of cleaning is a little bit more fastidious because they're cleaning those common areas like elevators, buttons, and light switches, and general seating and so forth. So you're going to see more of that in those common areas. And AAA also has our diamond rating. We work with tremendous hotel properties. Diamond ratings will tell you what kind of a hotel quality you're looking for. But we also have that best of housekeeping badge, which means that they have successfully gone through rigorous testing. And we're revamping that and escalating that now at AAA. So you can count on those kind of things to help you make your decision. Hotels are eliminating things like breakfast buffets, magazines, mini bars. Theme parks are setting up apps. They're doing call ahead, digital cues that you can expect to be in to notify you when you should enter the park. Temperature checks are happening in airports and staff, and incoming destinations like Alaska is requiring temperature checks. So you're looking at all these nuances now that are changing our industry dramatically. Social distancing, of course, seating, pools, beaches, apps will be there to reserve your space again. You'll see plexiglass a lot for the contactless check-in at hotels and all venues. And some hotels are eliminating even valet parking because of the frequency of people being in a vehicle, and they're eliminating those kind of things to protect you. And airlines are leaving empty seats. So those are the kind of things you can expect in this new world of post-COVID. Tour operators, lastly and finally, from the U.S. Tour Operators Association, they've banded together with many tour operators to come up with best of breed practices, and they're looking at how they can plan the trip from transfers to smaller groups to configurations on coaches and in destinations, attractions, etc. So bottom line, what does this all mean to you? As a wrap up, I'm going to say, what does it mean to you when you travel? First and foremost, of course you can travel. Be excited about it. Everyone wants to travel. There's a pent-up demand and people want to do that, but you have to plan ahead. And in doing that, work with a AAA travel advisor. They're your best friend. They're your advocate. We have resources to help you curate your own adventure so you can feel comfortable and part of that process about what you really want to do on your trip. And lastly, stay safe, continue to explore the world. And I'm going to wrap by saying, hey, the wanderlust continues in all of us. So let's explore the world and have fun, because that's what it means. If we have the discretionary income to do that, so let's be confident when we go. Just be prepared and do the right thing. So I appreciate your time.
Thank you. Wonderful advice, Paula. And I don't think we can stress enough how helpful it is to visit TripTik. So triptik.AAA.com. And same TripTiks that we've known for decades, but you can do that and organize yourself right online. It can help you with road trips just to determine what rest stops and gas stations, hotels and restaurants are open along your route. So helpful. Paula, you mentioned so many great resources there. So you mentioned the COVID map, which has very specific information state to state on restrictions, what's open, what might not be open. You mentioned the CDC, so a great resource nationally for public health information. The World Health Organization, if you do have to travel outside of the country. And then of course there's the AAA Travel Center, right? And as Paula mentioned, your travel experts are your best friends here. So many great resources. Thank you. Okay, so Paula, one of the other things that Anne mentioned that I just want to say one more time, I love the idea of just packing extra snacks. And I love those clear containers, but just in travel now, just in case restaurants on your route or in your travels are at full capacity. So, snacking makes us happier, right, on a trip. So I love that tip. And I'm actually going to go over to start talking about air travel because, we are lucky enough here in the Northeast to have some amazing destinations to explore just a short flight away. We're very lucky here. So while so many of us are looking into hitting the road, others are asking, a lot of our members have asked what's next with air travel. We know you can get some tremendous deals on airfare right now. So we are lucky to have John Goodman with us today. And John is the Director of Media and Public Relations for the Rhode Island Airport Corporation. And John also serves as Rhode Island's representative on the New England Rural Health Association. So that's another great skill set. Over 30 years in working world, you've had some really exciting jobs, John, also. So, you've served as a policy advisor and a press secretary for 2 U.S. senators. You've been the vice president of a leading marketing and communications firm. You are truly an expert in your own right. So thanks for being with us. So like I said, many of our members have questions about traveling by plane. Many have flights booked over the next couple of months, are considering flying. And I think the leading question from our members was just what does the airport experience look like right now? So what can members expect at the ticket counter, gate service, and from TSA?
Well, thanks, Diane. I'm really happy to be part of the SmartDepart series, or as we say in the Northeast, SmartDepart. But I'm really honored to be on the board with the other experts who have touched on some good recommendations for all kinds of travel, including air travel. And really all of us want the same thing. We want COVID-19 under control, allowing us to safely engage in all the activities that we want. And that includes air travel. And that requires that we all, airports, airlines, and most of all you, take all the appropriate precautions and heed the advice of health experts and realize that our economy and quality of life is really directly tied to our collective efforts to combat the virus. We had a heart-touching moment earlier this week with Hank Lemoyne, a Vietnam veteran from Rhode Island, suffering from exposure to Agent Orange, and he was finally able to make his way home to Block Island. And it's good to remember that wearing the face coverings that all the airlines are now requiring isn't just to protect you, it's to protect people like Hank. And I really can't think of anyone who wouldn't want to make sure that Hank is able to live out his days at his home on Block Island. So that's something to be mindful of. We know that people don't like wearing masks, but we're seeing that, and we're seeing folks in the Northeast do a great job with that, and we're really setting the example for others. Now, the Airport Council International has actually done some research to find out how people are feeling about flying, and they found that people do trust the airports and the airlines, and I think we've earned that trust, but we're trying to re-earn that every day. Passengers know that we're taking steps to engage in enhanced cleaning technology, addressing all the high-touch surfaces. If you touch it, we're cleaning it. We're employing the electrostatic cleaning to get where hands really can't get to clean. They will see cleaning crews going into the restrooms and making sure, doing that on an hourly basis to try to make sure that everything is as clean as possible. But we realize that people need to make their own decisions and do their own research. And you don't have to believe me about any of this. You can go and do your own research on the internet. But again, when you go to the airport, you're going to find folks who are very understanding and knowing that people can be nervous about flying in general and flying in the COVID era. So you're going to have 100% of people working to make sure that you're safe and to walk you through all of these procedures. The first thing you're probably going to notice when you come into the airports is that you'll see more hand sanitizer stations. Use them. They're probably every 30 feet here at TF Green Airport. You'll see the enhanced cleaning procedures. These are all EPA and CDC approved technologies. You'll see the full room sprayers going. You'll see plexiglass to protect you and airline employees during check-in. You'll see more no-touch options to check in baggage that some airlines are implementing. And then you'll get to the security screening process. TSA has announced all different procedures now. They're advising people to keep possession of their boarding passes instead of handing them to the boarding agents. You can separate your food for X-ray screening because we know people are going to be bringing their snacks. Pack smart. Passengers can take extra care to ensure that they don't have any prohibited items, but they should know that they can have up to 12 ounces of hand sanitizer and have those ready to be taken out. You can also pack some of these items in your carry-on bag so you don't have to put them in the bins necessarily. And you'll see different markers for practicing social distancing. And so look for those cues on the floor and realize you're going to be going to different airports, maybe connecting with flights. No two airports are alike, so this could look a little different. And be mindful of all the different signage and be respectful of the different health procedures that different communities are having. And again, as I mentioned before, wear the facial protection. TSA officers at checkpoint are using the facial protection as well. Travelers are encouraged to do that. Again, the major airlines are all requiring that. And once you get through the TSA process, you'll see that they're wearing gloves for pat downs now. They'll change those gloves after every individual. But once you get through, you're going to be, noticing that things are a little quieter than they have been. At the height of the pandemic, our volume was down 95%. And today, most airports are just at 20% of the volume. So the good news, bad news situation is when you're traveling by air, you're going to notice that there's a lot more room for social distancing. And really, it's the irony is that you actually do have that safe, clean experience where you can actually be separate from people, but you will see that there are fewer food and beverage options, fewer retail operations, but you will find grab and go food options. And we just appreciate your understanding that the volume at the airport can't support the number of restaurants that you might be expecting. The main advice that we give is that people go to your airline's website because they may have special precautions that they want you to know about. At least one airline is now doing temperature checks. They're all requiring face masks. They're going to help you social distance on the airlines. They might not be giving you the same food and beverage before, so you might want to grab those grab and go snacks before you get on or bring your own food. And I think once you're in the air, you're going to notice different things as well. And some of this you might not know about, but the airlines have always had hospital-grade HEPA filters that clean and change over cabin air and bring in fresh air multiple times during a trip. So we all know that you have some control over the air coming out above your head, but most people don't actually realize that there are air intakes below your feet. So this almost gives you like a little bubble of your own air, and that really minimizes the amount of air exchange that you might be experiencing. And of course, between every flight, the airlines are cleaning down and doing the same type of cleaning processes that you're seeing at the airports themselves. So they're really going above and beyond to make sure they're doing everything they possibly can to keep you healthy and safe throughout the process. And once you arrive at your destination, again, we remind you to be respectful of the local health guidance and have a safe vacation and a healthy return. So just really, you keep in mind, you deserve a vacation. You deserve to have fun and relax. This has been a long time coming. We're seeing an increased interest in people taking those opportunities to travel. And really, you can help pattern the examples of safe and healthy habits that we've adopted here in the Northeast, in other areas that you're going to. So we just encourage you to actually take advantage of all those different options that you have to travel. It's a growing list. And again, you know, we're going to do everything we possibly can, but we really need you to take your own precautions to keep yourself and others healthy and safe as well.
Great information, thank you. And I'm just going to demo. I think it's a great tip. Brings us all a lot of comfort just knowing that we can have up to 12 ounces of sanitizer for each passenger. So the largest bottle of sanitizer I have here at my home, just kind of sitting on the counter, this is only an 8-ounce bottle, and you'll see it's a pretty good size. So a 12-ounce will go a long way for, you know, even a whole family. And, you know, just that alone, I know we all us ladies have the little ones in our purses, but that alone just really put me at ease. And, you know, as John knows, I have to say this, John, we at AAA Northeast are headquartered in Rhode Island. So we work in the same state, in the same tiny little state. So for those of you, I know we have people joining from all over the country as far as Oregon. So if you're joining, you know, I just need to emphasize that Rhode Island is a gorgeous place to visit in the summer. We have beautiful beaches, great museums, great history, and incredible food. In fact, we are so spoiled in regard to our culinary scene here that that's typically the only thing that disappoints me when I travel is I want the food from back home. So Paula is a native Rhode Islander. She needs to get back here to eat soon, to come and eat with us. But you probably heard one of the other charming things about Rhode Island come out of John's mouth, and that is our regional accent. So if you hear people talking about AAA's SmartDepart program, then you know that they are a local. You can actually make fun of us and we don't get offended here at all. We're actually somewhat proud of our regional accent here in Rhode Island. So just so you know that everyone's welcome and we're a fun place to visit in the summer. So I'm going to go back to Allison because I know Allison's been looking at all the questions from our members for our panelists. So I'll kick it back over to her for a bit. And she might be on mute.
Sure, Diana, thank you so much. And thank you, John, Paula, and Anne, as always, for your amazing insights. I do have a great question here, and that's many of our members coming from all different areas of the United States, and many of them are heading out on road trips in the Midwest and down the Eastern Seaboard on America's great expressways and highway systems. So Anne or Paula, maybe we'll start with Anne and see if Paula has anything to add to it. Do you have any specific advice or protocol on how to handle that expressway rest stop experience?
Well, I would be prepared, of course. And we don't have expressway road stops here in the Pacific Northwest, but I would pack, you know, your PPE, your masks, your hand sanitizer. Perhaps Paula would be better to answer this, being from the East Coast, but I'm just prepared that when I get to the rest area, I always remember to take anything valuable out of my car with me when I'm at a rest area. That includes your smartphones. Think about those if you're charging them in your car. Don't leave anything valuable in your car. And just always wipe down any high touch points and be sure when you get back to the car as well. Wash again, clean up, sanitize, and be sure you put your trash in a trash bin. Those would be my suggestions.
Great, thanks. Paula, do you have anything to add?
Just briefly then, and right off of what Anne was saying, the critical thing is to remember to keep a barrier between your hands and everything else. And sometimes people forget they'll wash their hands and they'll turn the faucet off with their hands because they're clean, instead of taking a paper towel or something and actually turning the faucet off with a paper towel if it's not an automated faucet. So just critically keeping a barrier between your hands and something, and certainly keep your hands away from your face at all times. And then using your sanitizers and stuff when you're back in the car, and You know, and I love the tips that Ann had, and I talked about them before myself. If you don't have gloves with you, that extra sandwich bag or something you have acts as a great little barrier between everything that you're going to touch. So that's the critical piece here.
Thanks. Another one popped up that maybe is best for John. When you, most of our members from across the US that are going to either mid-market or large airports for air travel, they have those guidelines where you should arrive, 2 hours before your flight time, just to make sure that you go through everything. Should we give ourselves a bit more time now? Oh, I think you might be muted.
I believe I'm muted there. There we go. I've unmuted myself. When you go through the airports, you'll notice at different times the volume is low, but if you're traveling at a time when other flights are taking off, you actually might see similar lines forming, and everyone's going to be taking a little bit more time with social distancing. So it's still wise to give yourself all that extra time and pretty much follow the same recommendations that you've had before. But certainly, even though the volume is low, you still want to make sure you have enough time to make your way through security.
Thanks for that. Thank you. It looks like many people are traveling across the states of Ohio and New York, Oregon. So we're seeing some great comments in the question chat come up. One more air travel question, either Paula or John, I think you'd be suited for this. Is there any advice that you could give to a traveler if they arrive at the airport and they realize that their flight is full and they're uncomfortable? Do you have any advice or tips for them of what they should do, how they should tackle that situation?
Well, we have seen pictures on the internet of a situation that was similar to that seemed to be somewhat of a unique situation. The experience that we're seeing with our travelers here at TF Green Airport is that there is plenty of opportunity for social distancing. The airlines know that is an issue of concern, and that's what travelers want to see at this point. But again, this is an area where you do very well to go check the policies that your airline has. And also, that's something that you can be mindful of when you're talking about any of the cancellation policies, or how to use your air miles or whatnot. This is really a great time to be a savvy traveler, but first and foremost, go to your airline's website and learn about their policies.
Great, thank you so much. And one question that came in from a member: how best should we plan for a long distance road trip when we have to stay overnight along the way? So I think this is a perfect question for you, Paula, if you want to take that.
Thanks, Allison. Yeah, absolutely. And again, the key word is planning. So you should be calling ahead, calling the property, making sure you know what the protocols are at the property that you're staying. Don't take advantage of saying, I'm just going to stay in XYZ location and not make those reservations. This is a time where you have to make reservations up front. You have to understand the cancellation policies, understand their cleaning protocols, and be comfortable where you are. The good news about AAA, we can guide you through all of that process. And the AAA advisors know we work with amazing hotel properties, and all of them have these protocols in place. So you really want to plan in advance and know that if you're going to stop along the way, you have to prepare where you're going to stop, bring that extra food along the way, as Ann talked about, because you're going to plan your journey. And even that airline trip, try to plan a trip that has less stops, and frankly, just do a nonstop if you can.
Great information.
Great, thank you so much.
Do you have any other questions, Allison? I know we're getting tight on time here, but.
Yeah, I think we've covered most of them. Thank you.
Great. Okay, so we are out of time. That went so fast. You all had such great information for us, and we appreciate everyone who joined, especially our panelists. Thank you for your transparency and for the really important information that you've shared. I know this definitely gives us greater peace of mind about traveling this summer. Wanderlust is real, like Paula said. I know so many people are very, very anxious to get out there. So if you have any questions, please, again, I see the the website up on the screen, but if you have any questions, feel free to reach out to your AAA travel agent. They will be more than happy to help you. And everyone, have a great evening. Enjoy this beautiful summer evening and take care. Stay safe, everyone.